Hi, I'm Brandon Gordon, and I'd like to welcome you to this special Fiesta Days program. Spanish Fork has a wonderful history that points back to pioneer settlers. They moved into this beautiful but untamed area. They worked hard to create something more for themselves, but also for their families. This dedication and sacrifice made Spanish Fork what it is today. Principles of hard work, volunteerism, and family still drive our residents. It's these values that embody our Pioneer Spirit Award recipient, and we are happy to honor such a person today. Let me introduce to you our Pioneer Spirit Award winner, Lane Henderson. Hi,
Hello.
Lane. Thanks for joining us today.
It's a great honor to be here.
Well, for me, it's pretty great to be, next to my next door business neighbor.
We've worked together for quite some time, at least adjacent to one another.
Yeah, it's kind of great, and can't think of anybody better than this award. So thank you for being accepting of it. Sometimes it's not easy to.
Not easy to admit you're old.
Well, I didn't say that. You did. So.
Yeah, that's what they first said when they said the Pioneer Heritage Award, and everyone said, "Well, that just means you're old."
Yeah.
And I agree.
Well, we might have kind of a theme going, because last year you might have to work on the block between.
Exactly. Steve was just down the block.
Steve Wilson was
We
last
worked together
year.
for years.
Yeah, and so it seems like we've got a good streak going. I guess we could say.
That's a great part of Main Street.
Yeah. As we think about the Pioneer Spirit Award, right? We know the history of J-Mart. We know, but what maybe our viewers don't know is what it was like growing up at J-Mart.
Oh, it was incredible. Boy, when you think about the history of J-Mart, maybe I could just start with how it came to be. My father came home from the Army. He on the GI Bill, he trained as a mechanic. And where Zions Bank is right now, there was a garage there called Orton Garage. And he started to work there. But he was going to get married. And so he asked for some time off to marry my mother, Maureen. And he did, and they took a honeymoon. And when he came back to work, they said, well, they got along so well without him that they didn't need him. So here was a man right out of the Army, freshly married, renting in a home, and no job. And so what he did, he started walking down the street, and he passed all those that you just mentioned on that particular street. And he got to where the Spanish Fork Press was, and he knocked on the door and went in, and they hired him as a janitor. And that's where he started, out of the Army. And eventually, he worked with them for quite a while, with the Warners, and eventually made an offer to buy the Spanish Fork Press, which he did. And that took place around 1960, about in that area. And then he incorporated, and everyone asks, what does J-Mart stand for? And this is what it stands for, is that the J stands for JC, which is my father's name. And he called my mother, whose name was Maureen, Mart. And so J-Mart then was incorporated. And I remember when I bought the business, the newspaper and the printing company in the 1990, about in that area, my wife and I had another business which was called Double L Properties, and everyone assumed that I would change the name. But it never felt right to change the name. Yeah. It's always been J-Mart. Yeah. And it's what it's always going to be as long as I can help it stay that way, and that's how it came to be. Now, growing up in the business, hard work. I mean, you were raised on a farm, you understand a little bit hard work, but the printing industry was hard work. I started about the time I could walk, and I spent most of the time there. And we got into the publishing business. My father bought a community press, which was the first one in the valley or in the area, which printed newspapers. No other city had a press that would print newspapers. And so we printed about 20 weeklies every week. And at times we printed the Daily Herald and we printed the Daily Universe. We printed a lot of different, but it was constantly going. But there's a time frame, like milking cows, with getting newspapers out on time. Yeah. And I remember we would work shifts, and you'd work about a 12-hour shift. I remember after that first shift one time, when I was a little younger, I asked my dad, I said, when does the second shift come in? And he just looked at me and says, they're already here, it's you. So we just started doing it again. And you just worked until the work was done.
Yeah.
And some days that was 20 hours, some days that was 24 hours. And we just did it, and was the type of work we did. But it was very rewarding work, and we worked with a lot of great people. And the history of the paper itself is just so unique in preserving history. It was a great heritage to have.
One of the things I hear a lot on the city council is, I wish we still had the press.
Everyone tells me that.
Yeah.
Everyone tells me that. And that's an interesting story. I bought the paper in '90, and it was such an investment in my life because I was at school when my father got sick and I had to come back, and because I had to work so hard growing up, I didn't really want to stay in that industry. But circumstances played out in a way that I stayed in the business, and I found out that I had a great love for it. And I found out I had a great love for writing, and I loved to chronicle history and to preserve history. And so I knew just about everyone in the town, from their birth to any awards that they might have got, scouting or athletic or whatever it might be. I covered most of the events and everything, so I was able to know everyone, which gave me a pulse on the community, which I enjoyed and I loved. But it also gave me a way of preserving the heritage. Well, what happened is there came a time that my wife and I were called from our faith to serve in another area, which was in Europe. And I had to make that decision to sell or not. And I made the decision to sell because there was no one to continue on with what we were doing. And so I did sell, hoping that it would continue. And at that time, it was Pulitzer newspapers that bought it. And that was in 2001.
Yeah.
And we lived in Europe for 3 years, came back in 2004. And I felt the same need after the fact that we needed a newspaper, we needed that. But it's really hard because we've kind of moved on in our lives from the digital into a digital realm where a lot of people don't really read that. But what I did do when I came home that I think is very, very important for our history is I compiled and finished the history for the sesquicentennial of Spanish Fork. And so I compiled the entire history because it was my dad's vision to update the history book from when it was originally written.
Yeah.
And which I did, and I published it in his honor as his work, and I was able to finish that. Even prior, before his passing, I was able to get that done, and it was a very rewarding experience.
Yeah.
But now I have the history of all the newspapers, and now I have the history of Spanish Fork.
Oh, cool. What now? You've written other books.
I have.
Okay.
I've written a couple other books, but mostly because I developed this love for writing. I did write a book that's called Hitting the Curveball, which relates to youth and how to adjust to the curves that you find in life a little bit, and how you can relate to moving forward and adjusting to some of the problems you might be facing and how to move forward. And because of that, I just have always liked to work with youth, and that's why I like to chronicle their achievements and to give them a basis where they could grow from, and to we care about you. This is important to our city. It's important to us that you love what you do, and we want to be part of it.
Cool.
And so we're always able to do that.
Joanne's nephew, Nick Dart, gifted
Yes.
that book to my son.
Yes.
And so I mean, it was really cool because he's going, hey, this book, Lane Henderson wrote it, and so I don't know if he goes down and gets a stack from you and gives
There
it
are
to
a lot of people that do. A lot of people come and buy a lot, and then they'll give them away, and
Awesome.
And we're able to give them to a lot of youth, which is good. It's why it was written.
That's cool. What a great impact, the ripple effects. As I look through my book of remembrance and my, my tote, if you will, in the basement, there's all of those press clippings, from milestones in my life. And I remember you coming down to my Eagle Court of Honor on a Sunday night out in Lake Shore.
We did.
And I mean, what great sacrifice that must have been because everybody got your Eagle back then. It was just kind of what we did through the 80s and 90s, and you would have went to so many.
We did, and it was, luckily my father took that over, and he was able to continue with that until he passed on. But it was a great tradition that we really like to make note of the fact that was a great achievement. And for the young women, for their Young Womanhood Award, whatever it might be, we just wanted to make sure that they were recognized for what they were doing, the good things. And that's what I always did as a publisher. I didn't print things that were negative. I just never felt it was appropriate and never part of our city, and it didn't build any type of base for who we are. I focused on the positive. I just think we can do much, much better than what we do.
Yeah.
So that's what concerns me about the way that journalism has changed.
Sure. Yeah, certainly. I'm thinking of a moment after I opened my donut shop here in town where the donut machine went down. Was there ever a night that your press would break? And
Definitely, yes.
What did you do? How'd you?
Well, I'll tell you, my father could fix anything.
Wow.
I wasn't gifted that, but he was. And my son was gifted that, but it missed a generation.
Okay.
And so we would always have to make our own parts and fix it because it had to go on.
Yeah.
And it had to be done, and a lot of times the downturn would take a little bit of time to get it back up and running.
Yeah.
And we just continued on.
But wow, you had a charge account at IFA and went through a lot of baling wire. Is that maybe?
We did. We used a lot of wire. We had
wire?
our own shop that we fabricated the parts in.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Huh, that's cool.
And it kept everything running.
Yeah.
But it wasn't uncommon that it would break, no.
Yeah. Oh, what a tremendous Main Street business owner that I think you just can't not be remembered. I saw you put your piece in the Dowdle puzzle recently. And
that was so neat to have
cool
that
is
done
that?
and to be recognized on that level for all that the city has done. It wasn't just about us, but it was about the city and the heritage and all those that have done. It's the fabric of the community.
Yeah.
And I've always said, that's why I've always felt it's so important to preserve our downtown. And I've built a lot of buildings downtown and tried to keep commercial businesses there, because once you lose a downtown, you'd never reclaim it.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very important that we maintain an image, because that Main Street is still the Main Street.
Yeah.
Going through town, and I would really like to see that always preserved.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Now you served some time on the council or mayor in Salem.
I have. I've served 2 terms as a city councilman.
That's right.
and 1 term as a mayor.
Okay, so there's 12
And I
years.
figure that's plenty for anyone, by the way. All you politicians, I think everyone deserves a chance.
Yes.
I'm not a big
sure.
fan of lifelong politicians.
Yeah, that's a great.
It gets a lot of new
theory.
insight when you get new blood, new people, new ideas.
Absolutely.
But I love doing it.
That's great. That's good. Favorite Fiesta Days memory?
Well, I need to tell you that this holiday, this celebration, is my wife's favorite holiday. It is the biggest deal in our family. And she plans the whole year for what we do on Fiesta Days.
Okay.
We, as you know, we set up in front of J-Mart.
Yep.
And we invite the entire family of in-laws and outlaws, everybody that we've ever known, always comes to our home. We have bounce houses or barbecues. It's an all-day event from the parade in the morning, the whole day, on. And it's she really loves Fiesta Days, and it's always been part of who we are, and
Cool.
It's been great.
So it might sound like maybe you do some of the background work. She
does all the heavy lifting. She does all the heavy lifting.
She's got it all. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, again, I don't think we could have picked a better Pioneer Spirit recipient, just because, like I say, I've just watched you, as just a little younger than you. Not
well, thanks
much.
for saying that.
Sure.
But you're quite a bit younger.
You're not that much older than me, but just look up to you as a business owner and a great recipient of this. I don't think our community of Spanish Fork would be what it is without great business leaders and business minds like yourself and your dad, and that legacy that lives on. That's just tremendous. And so we're honored to have you as our Pioneer recipient, award recipient, and again, I hope you just enjoy it. Enjoy the parade. You'll get the great seat. So as you drive by J-Mart, you can wave.
Yeah, I can wave. Thank you. It's a great honor. We're very appreciative of it.
You bet. Well, thanks again.